Theory number one. Ken is gay. So maybe y'all's gaydar is way better than mine, but I don't think he's gay. And yes, it is entirely plausible that he is gay, but hi everyone, my name's Dimitri and welcome back to DimitriTube. Is Ken a Let's talk about it. As always, if you're enjoying my videos, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. I'm a growing YouTuber and like subscribes really help me out. So just a heads up, for this video, I'm gonna start at the reunion and just work backwards and kind of jump around because I think that's the only way this video is gonna make sense. And out of all of the couples on Love is Blind season 6, I think Ken and Brittany had the most unanswered questions, but we're gonna try to solve it today. Let's dive in. Nick and Vanessa Lachey are terrible hosts. Let's start with that. Vanessa Lachey is way worse of a host than Nick, and I think Nick should just do the show solo, but that's not gonna happen. They've hosted the show for like 6 seasons now. They're married. It's clearly a package deal. It ain't gonna change. Anyways, apparently Nick and Vanessa Lachey watched the show because during the reunion, Vanessa was talking to Johnny and Amy and they were complimenting them on how beautiful their wedding was when they were watching it at home on TV. So after Vanessa said that, I assume she watched the show. So going even further, if you watched the show, it is not clear why Ken and Brittany broke up. So that should have been the first question that Nick and Vanessa Lachey asked them at the reunion, but they didn't. Nick and Vanessa, are you purposely just not doing your jobs, or are you just pawns to this greater Netflix scheme? Let me know below in the comments. Not me asking Nick and Vanessa to answer in the comments like they even watch this YouTube channel, but maybe one day they will. Make sure to pound that subscribe button if you haven't already. Moving on, so since Nick and Vanessa did not have answers, we are gonna turn to Reddit and see what they think. And I have opinions too, but my theories and opinions very much reflected what Reddit was thinking. So just a really quick synopsis about Ken and Brittany. So Ken and Brittany met in the pods, and honestly, it was nothing extraordinary. They were very wholesome and very Christian, and their storyline was very much Ken has never dated outside of his race before, and can an interracial relationship work? It's the typical Netflix diversity, equity, and inclusion storyline. And this is just my opinion. You could have cut their storyline from the show completely and like not much would have been missed. And the episodes would have been a little bit shorter. And just a heads up, during the show, Brittany never gave us an extensive dating history, but just from how she talks, acts, and described her previous relationships, I think she prefers to date black men. And like, she never specifically said that, but I'm pretty sure she does. And that may or may not be true. I don't know. I'm not about to like dig up her relationship history online. I don't have time for that. If y'all know her previous exes, just put it below in the comments and let me know. And when it comes to Ken, inside the pods, he didn't make much sense to me. But when they finally got to the real world and outside of the pods, he started to make way more sense. And when it comes to Ken, the only way I can describe him is like, he's like a Russell Wilson. And like, if you know, you know, you have Future and then you have Russell Wilson, and he's more of a Russell Wilson type. He's a good guy, a Christian guy. He's definitely a guy you could take home to meet your parents, and he will definitely be loyal. But he's kind of corny. He's not the hottest guy, and he has a very average job. So I can see why in the real world, a lot of women probably just kind of pass over him. Hence why he decided to go on this show. Ken and Brittany end up breaking up on episode 8, and there are 3 things that happen that lead up to their breakup on episode 8 that I want to mention. While in the Dominican Republic, Ken has a conversation with AD regarding his thoughts on dating a white woman, which I will talk about later in the video. Second thing I want to mention, when Brittany and Ken get to the real world, Brittany struggles with Ken in person and struggles with his body language. She can tell something is off, but she doesn't know exactly what it is. And not only that, she confronts him about this I think 2 or 3 times. Now, I think women's intuition is a real thing, and when Brittany felt something was off, something probably is off. And not only that, there was also a change in Ken's demeanor, because while in the pods, he was so excited and had so many plans, and then when he gets out of the pods, he's not as excited, and Brittany specifically points that out. And this is very important because this couple is about to get married. You're about to be together for a lifetime, and 1 week in, the excitement's already gone. It definitely shouldn't be like that. And third thing I want to mention, y'all, Ken does not cook, and it's very clear this man eats out a lot. Did y'all peep his spice cabinet?
A few days now.
This is my spice cabinet.
The only spices he had in his cabinet were oregano and Italian seasoning. So the only thing he knows how to make is spaghetti. Like, nigga, you don't even have salt and pepper? And low key, that's how you know he be eating out a lot, because how are you that big, but you don't even own salt and pepper? Anyways, so on episode 8, Ken and Brittany break up, and their breakup conversation really didn't make any sense. If you want to watch it for yourselves, it's on episode 8 at 29-23. But there were a few things that we did get from this conversation. First, Ken and Brittany were waiting until marriage to have sex. And this whole conversation argument started because Ken woke Brittany up at 1 in the morning knowing she had to work at 5 a.m. and I guess he wanted to cuddle. It wasn't really clear why he specifically woke her up. So let me just say, if Ken woke her up over the possibility of sex, that would make sense, but they both agreed they were waiting until they got married. So it didn't really make sense why Ken was waking her up, but in the conversation, I guess he just wanted to cuddle or talk or something, I don't know. And it's not that I don't remember or I was not focused on the conversation. The conversation they had just was very vague. Next, during the conversation, Brittany says something is off and she gives Ken an opportunity to explain himself, but he does not. And then ultimately, the conclusion of the conversation is Ken feels slightly unwanted and Brittany may not be fully attracted to him. And I don't know how we got to that conclusion, but somehow we got to that conclusion in this conversation. And also, the editing during this conversation was very chopped and screwed. And overall, it was not very clear why Ken and Brittany broke up. And this is why I do not with Nick and Vanessa Lachey. The first question during that reunion should have been, why did you two break up? But also at the same time, during the reunion, it's like a year after the fact. So that was plenty of time for Brittany and Ken to get their story straight. So even if they did ask, they easily could have like lied. And also after they broke up, Netflix really should have done some exit interviews. They should have separated Brittany and Ken and just asked Brittany, why did you and Ken break up? Why do you think the relationship failed? And they should have had Ken one-on-one and asked him the same things. And us as an audience, we just could have put something together from their responses. And last thing I want to say about their breakup. So a lot of people online were saying Brittany, I guess, got on live or made a post saying they broke up off camera, but then Netflix made them like have a conversation and break up again on camera. Now, whether or not that's true or false, I don't know. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you broke up on camera or off camera. At least just tell us why you broke up. That's all I want to know. Okay, now let's dive into the theories as to why people on Reddit think Ken and Brittany broke up. Theory number 1. Ken is gay. So maybe y'all's gaydar is way better than mine, but I don't think he's gay. And yes, it is entirely plausible that he is gay, but I don't think that's what it is. And yes, Ken does have a few feminine mannerisms that I did clock outside of the pods, but to me, that's not really enough to be like, oh yeah, he's gay. Y'all, Ken was 25 years old at the time of filming, and this is 2024. Being gay is so mainstream now, and if anything, it's like cool to be gay. And not only that, this man was always on his iPhone. So if he was curious, he probably would have Googled it and known by now. And like, don't get me wrong, there are guys who come out much later in life, but those guys tend to be very pre-internet age, or they grew up like crazy sheltered, and I'm not getting from Ken that he grew up super sheltered. And Ken is significantly younger than me, so I know he grew up with internet. And guys who come out later in life like that, those very much tend to be the exception, not the rule. Next, so if Ken is gay, that means he went on a reality dating show to try to cure his gayness. So essentially, he's doing the same thing as Colton Underwood from The Bachelor. So Colton Underwood did this in 2021, and now you're telling me Ken is doing this like 3 years later? That storyline really is not giving for me. And me and Colton Underwood are roughly the same age, and when his story came out, there were a lot of things to me that I thought were very far-fetched. So for Ken to be even younger and doing this is so wild to me. And if you want to watch my video on Colton Underwood, just click the link up here. Or is it up here? It'll pop up somewhere on the screen. And last thing I want to say, if he is gay, it'll come out eventually, and all of you who had serious gaydar going off, you can just say I told you so in the comments. Feel free. Okay, moving on to theory number 2. Brittany was not attracted to him. And y'all, this is definitely not what happened. I don't believe this for 1 second, but this is what Brittany and Ken were pushing on us during their breakup conversation. I do not believe that Brittany was not attracted to Ken. Brittany and Ken shared a suite together in the Dominican Republic for like a week. If she was not attracted to this man, she would have ran out of that suite just like how Shayna did on season 2. This is season 6 of Love is Blind. If you have not realized it by now, looks are not as important to women as it is for guys. And also, Brittany is a baddie. Brittany is absolutely gorgeous, and this is gonna sound kind of mean, but whatever. Ken is like a 5. But if he lost 15 pounds and cut his hair and did something different with his beard, he could easily be like an 8 or a 9. If you disagree with that, just put it in the comments. But for Brittany, Ken is tall, he's black, he's Christian, and they share very similar values. So for Brittany, that's enough for her to get there. She doesn't need to date a Michael B. Jordan. And they connected so deeply in the pods that she liked him for him, and it was clear the attraction was gonna build for her. And this is my theory. If she truly was not attracted to him, she would not have waited this long to say something. Like, they wouldn't have done a whole vacation in the Dominican Republic and lived together for a bit and then say she's not attracted to him. I don't think she would have waited that long. Moving on to theory number 3. AD planted a seed in Kenneth's head that he could not be with a white woman. Now, to me, this is a more plausible conclusion than him being gay, but let's unpack this. So on episode 6, AD and Ken have a conversation in the Dominican Republic, and she asks him if he's ever dated a white woman before, how does he feel about marrying a white woman, and how does he feel about having children with her and her raising black children. So ultimately, the purpose of dating is to find a partner and to get married. But also, the purpose of dating is figuring out what you like, figuring out what you don't like, and also figuring out what you want and what you do not want in a partner. That is part of it as well. And in the grand scheme of things, Ken is very young. At the time of filming this show, he was 25 years old. And I truly do not think Ken ever put any thought to this until AD brought it up. Hence why I do think this is a plausible reason why they broke up. And this type of thing actually happened twice this season. It happened with Jimmy as well, and I will explain. So when Jimmy was dating Jessica, Jessica at one point mentioned that she had a kid, and she asked Jimmy if it was okay for him to date someone who has a kid, and Jimmy said yes. And when it comes to Jimmy, I don't think he fully processed what it would mean to be a stepdad and what it would mean to date a woman with a kid until it was fully presented to him. Jessica asked him if that was okay. He said yes, but then he took a few days to think about it, and I think he realized that's not what he wanted, and that's part of the reason he chose Chelsea over her. And I truly think the same thing happened with Ken. When Ken was in the pods with Brittany, connecting with someone he liked and getting to know her, that was fine. But then when AD asked how his family and friends would feel and asked what he thought about having kids with a white woman, he really truly just never thought about it. and didn't realize the gravity of the situation until AD brought it up. And I don't know if that's the specific reason that Ken broke up with her. I don't think that's the reason. I think it's something else that they could be hiding. But Ken is 25 years old, and that is just a part of dating. You are figuring out what you want and what you don't want in a partner, and this is possibly one of the things Ken realized he did not want in a partner. And it's very much plausible that Ken did not realize this until it was down to the wire, because we were getting to the point where Ken and Brittany were about to be introduced to each other's family and friends, and they broke up with each other right before that. So to me, that was very plausible. And the fourth and final theory on why Ken and Brittany broke up is because Ken was already in a relationship with his iPhone. On Reddit, hopeful_tater-tot says, the man is in a close and intimate relationship with his phone. Brittany was getting in the way of quality time with the phone. Ken broke things off so that he could continue building the phone relationship. Hope that helps. And that is all I got. This is the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts on Ken and Brittany's relationship below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.